Public Housing Authorities have been housing families for over 20 years.
My wife and I live here in public housing because we're more happy here at this time of our life.
Vermont's housing authorities offer affordable housing options to eligible Vermonters.
We enjoy the people and the activities that go on around here.
For more information, contact your local housing authority. More than just a building, we're part of your community.
We want people to stop right on red. We want pedestrians to have the right-of-way of crosswalks.
Hello. We're starting this program off at the street department, and today, as you may notice, we're going to be talking about some of our snowplow machinery and how we intend to deal with snow this winter. And I'm delighted to have with me, if you can see him over here, Brian Osborne, who is head of the street division of the Public Works Department, who ultimately has the responsibility for making sure that when the snow comes, our streets are going to be as clear as quickly as they possibly can be. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, actually, let's get out of here. We wanted to start this program off dramatically. Okay, we're here on Pine Street. I think many people will recognize the location, and this is the garage where we keep our Public Works equipment. Brian, let me recollect an incident that happened to me many years ago. It was actually just after I was elected mayor. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I received a friendly telephone call from one of our constituents who said, "You're the new mayor, right? Well, I can't get to work because the street department has blocked me in as a result of their snow plowing." That was the very first call that I got regarding problems associated with snow plowing, and since that time we have gotten many, many more. I think when the snow comes, people expect the city to do as good a job as it possibly can, and I think, in fact, in the last few years we have been doing an excellent job. And one of the reasons that we have is that we have formed, as most people know, a Public Works Department, and I think as a result of that formation and as a result of the purchase of an enormous amount of new equipment, we are in much better shape than we have ever been to deal with the problems associated with snow. Brian, why don't we start from zero and maybe just tell us, in general, how does the city respond when the snow starts to fall?
Well, essentially, the process begins with weather observations that take place several days in advance of the storm. We track the storm coming in. We'll sit down and we'll line up our strategies of different scenarios that may develop for the storm and plan accordingly. Once the storm gets...
Let me just even stop you right there. That's a good way to start. I gather you do more than just listen to the local radio news. What kind of connections do we have with weather prediction agencies?
Okay, we have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week weather service that we've contracted. It's out of Bedford, Massachusetts Weather Services, and they supply us with weather information 24 hours a day. They'll update the storms. They'll let us know exactly what we're going to expect and what we're going to have to deal with. We also have a cable drop which ties us into Atlanta, Georgia, the National Weather Channel, and we also have a direct line into the Burlington International Airport Tower, and we take advantage of their meteorologists and their radar capabilities.
Okay, so in general you're saying we're in pretty good shape, at least in as humanly possible. I'm sure all these guys also screw up now and then, but
yeah, there's a lot of variables involved in forecasting weather, but 99 times out of 100, we know it's coming, and we have a pretty good idea when. One time out of 100, you may get caught, but usually we can respond to that pretty quickly.
Okay, so now you've listened to your weather services, and a storm is coming. What happens?
Okay, we'll sit down and we'll develop a number of different scenarios that may develop and plan how to accommodate each one. When the storm is very close, we will begin speaking frequently with the tower at the airport, and they can generally tell us exactly when the storm is going to come into Burlington, what the temperatures are going to be. At that point, we'll begin bringing people in and have them in the yard here and ready as the storm's coming into Burlington, so that we can get out very quickly. In dealing with a snowstorm, timing is everything. You have to be ahead of it.
Okay, let's say the snow starts flying at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What happens?
Essentially what we do, depending on what type of storm it was, we would immediately get out on the main drags, the hill sections, main entries and exits in and out of the city, and get down a salt brine to eliminate that bonding of snow and ice to the road, reduce the rate of accidents, and get the traffic out of Burlington. Once that has been completed, depending on what the storm was going to do, we'd either go into a full-scale plowing operation, or if it was a light storm, the salt may take care of all of it for us, and we may not have to deal with it any further. But the important thing at that time of day is to get the traffic out of the city and get the roads open so that we can deal with it a little more effectively without all the cars in our way.
Okay, if it's an average type storm, when do the crews really start going full blast in trying to clean the streets and get the snow off the streets?
Okay, generally we will fully engage our plowing operation at about 2 or 3 inches. Now, human resources becomes a big factor in a storm. If it's a situation where we can sit on it a little bit and let it develop and hold our crews out of it and then bring them in at a later time, we'd certainly do that. Some of these storms go on, as you know, for 24, 30, 48 hours, and it's very important to conserve our resources. But generally, we will begin plowing.
Conserving your resources, I don't know if the viewers mean that. You're talking mostly about human resources and the fact,
yes.
I mean, one of the points that I think we want to make is, I'm sure most viewers understand, that running these machines, whether they're sidewalk machines or the street machines, in bitter cold weather with snow all over the place is not an easy job. And we demand a lot of our workers who do that, but obviously there is a limit to their endurance. How long might we ask people to stay out?
Well, normally we don't want anyone to work more than an 8-hour shift, but more frequently than not we end up working 12 hours, sometimes more. When we get past 12 to 16 hours, it becomes a decision that if an individual feels that he can continue, and we've made an evaluation that he can and remain safe on the roads, we will allow him to do so. Otherwise, he will be rotated out. Someone else will replace him, whether it be a city employee or whether we would take advantage of some of our contract assistants.
Okay. All right, I interrupted you, but why don't you continue on your description as to what happens when the storm is here?
Well, generally we'll begin to plow at 3 inches. Our plowing operation consists of about 12 routes. The first thing that we do is we go out on all the main drags. We open those up, get them cleared, all the primary routes, then the trucks break off into their secondary routes, and we'll begin plowing developments and side streets and things like that. It takes probably 6 to 8 hours to complete the routes. Many storms, it becomes a requirement to do this a couple of times as necessary. And if the weather holds out for us and it ends in a timely fashion, we'll come in the following day and we'll clean the storm up. We'll push everything back to the curb and make room for parking, as well as additional space to store the next snowstorm in.
Brian, how many routes might we be doing simultaneously? How many crews do we have out at the same time?
Well, on the streets, primarily we're dealing with 12 different routes, but under a severe storm condition, we would increase the number of routes and therefore reduce the time it takes to do each route to deal with heavier accumulations. At times, we would be addressing about 18 street routes and 7 sidewalk routes.
Okay. Other than to say that I have detected, I think some of the polls that we have done in the last year have detected people's perception that we are now doing, I think, a better job than we've ever done before. you want to add anything to that before we maybe take a look at some of the machinery that we have?
Well, I think that's a good point. We ran a study that was conducted by the University of Vermont. It was an independent study. It covered about 300 citizens, and the consensus was that from a public perception standpoint, the quality of snow removal increased. We had about 78% of the people that felt that the program was at least good or excellent, as where the majority of the people in previous years, through studies that were done at that point, felt that at best it was fair.
I mean, I think the truth is you're not going to please all of the people all of the time, and I think sometimes people just don't understand what's involved, and the calls come in, well, why wasn't my street done, and so forth and so on. But I do think that the vast majority of the people understand the difficulty of dealing with the many, many miles of streets and sidewalks that we have, and I think are perceiving that we're doing a good job. All right, what do you think about taking a little walk around here and
Sure.
introducing some of the machinery that we have to the people? All right, we have 2 sidewalk vehicles here. What is this about?
Well, the machine here is a track-mounted bombardier. It's a very powerful machine. We own 2 of these. We typically put them in areas where we get a lot of drifting, where we have to move a lot of snow. We've had these for a few years. They're a very reliable machine, and they do a super job for us. The machine next to it, this is...
Excuse me, and what you can do is fit the front of it with the equipment that you want. So you're looking at the same machine here, which has different equipment.
That's correct. This particular machine will take a V-plow, as you see on it, or a straight blade plow, depending on the application of the machine, where we're using it, and what we want to accomplish with it. The machine next to it is a 4-wheel drive articulating trackless sidewalk machine. We recently purchased 2 of these. These are extremely versatile machine. They will take a number of attachments. What you see on it here is a blower, which we typically use when the snow accumulations become very heavy. We use it to clean out handicap ramps, bus stops, things of that nature. And it's a very useful tool. Primarily, this is a plowing machine. Again, it will take a V-plow or a straight blade plow. And it also takes a variety of other attachments, including a sweeper and a mower. And the beauty of this machine is we can get use from it year-round.
It's a 12-month.
It's a 12-month-a-year machine, yeah.
Okay, Brian, why don't we open the door here? Let's ask our viewers to imagine with us that we're in here. What's going on? What do we have in here?
Okay, this is probably one of the more comfortable machines there are to operate as far as sidewalk vehicles. The terrain in Burlington is very rough. The sidewalk routes typically develop slower than the street routes. Takes anywhere from 8 to 10 hours to complete a sidewalk route, and to put it frankly, the people take a real pounding in on the sidewalk routes. But this is probably one of the more comfortable machines that we have. There are a number of controls within this machine. It's more sophisticated than the older ones. The operators have to be very well trained on these. They have a variety of different controls and responsibilities that they need to have a good handle on, and it's not a machine that anyone could get in and run. It's not as simple as steering it and pressing the gas. There's a lot more to it than that.
Is there adequate heating in here?
Yeah, there's very good heat in this machine. There are also but the installation of radios in our equipment becomes very important during the long nights, and when they're out there for 10 to 12 hours, helps keep them awake, prevents them from becoming drowsy, and it's something that certainly has a beneficial effect on the operator's morale as well.
Okay. What we're looking at now is the basic street plowing fleet, truck fleet that we have acquired over the last few years. Brian, I remember not so many years ago that what we had right down here was almost a museum of antiquated snow plowing equipment. In fact, one of the problems that we had years ago is that the guys were spending half of their time fixing what we had rather than being out on the streets getting rid of snow. And I know that in the last couple of years since Public Works has been reorganized, we've gotten rid of virtually all of the old stuff, and we have purchased some of the most sophisticated snowplow equipment available, as well as a whole lot of other stuff. Want to chat about that for a moment?
Sure. We used to have 15 plowing vehicles, plowing trucks. We now only have 9, which we find to be adequate. We retained 5 out of the existing fleet and totally restored and rehabilitated them, as well as purchasing 4 new plow trucks behind us right here.
Where are the 4? The 4 right here?
These are 2 of them, and there's another one in the back, and one is down at Oak Ledge right now. Okay, and essentially, an addition that has been made to these trucks is we've purchased them with wing plows as opposed to just front plows. You can see the wing attachment here on this truck. Essentially what this does for us...
Why don't you explain to people what a wing plow, what that means?
Okay, the wing plow typically rides off to the side of the truck as opposed to a plow that affixes to the front, which is the conventional method of plowing. Essentially what we're accomplishing by adding these wings is we're getting about 30% more efficiency and clearing capabilities with these trucks. It enables you to clear more snow with less passes and therefore increases your cycle time, and it makes the whole operation more efficient. We have 5 of these trucks that are equipped with wings. We also have 2 front-end loaders that come equipped with plows and wings. And if we could step over here, we could take a look inside of the truck. Okay, what we're looking at now is the inside of one of the plow trucks. Again, there's a variety of different controls that the operators are responsible for operating. You can see here several controls that adjust their plows and their wings and the body of the truck. These are automatic transmissions. They're much easier on the driver. They have a great deal of responsibility and things on their mind when they're driving, and they really don't need to be bothered with trying to shift the manual transmission in traffic, and so we've purchased these vehicles with automatic transmissions to try to give them more time to concentrate on the issues at hand. Down in between the seats here, you can see the nerve center of the salting operation. This is a Hydrotac computer simulator which presets the salt rates which we will be dispensing. Salt is the primary de-icer that we use to remove snow from the roads in the early stages of the storm. It's very expensive. It's about $30 a ton, and becomes very important to have proper calibration so that we're not putting out more salt than what we need.
Brian, my memory is that in the past we didn't have equipment anywhere near that sophisticated, and in fact we were spreading too much salt, is that right?
Yes, what we had before were manually calibrated salters. Many of the trucks could only be calibrated down to 12 to 1,500 pounds per 2-lane mile. We typically like to salt at either 3, 5, or 800 pounds per 2-lane mile, depending on the conditions. These boxes are pre-programmed, and it's as simple as selecting a switch to number 1, 2, or 3 for the appropriate salt setting that the supervisor informs the operator. So we've managed to save a great deal of money through salt calibration. Last year we experienced probably about a 30 to 40% reduction in salt usage, and a lot of it's due to calibration, and some of it is due to just the methods in which it's applied. Okay, what we're seeing here are the spreaders that we're running on all of our trucks. It's a fairly simple operation. The salt is loaded into the trucks, the tailgate is stripped, and the body is raised slightly, and the salt falls into this spreader box. There are a couple of augers which carry the salt down, and they fall onto the spinner, and the augers in the spinner are running at the speed designated by the Hydrotac computer simulator, which we saw inside the cab, and this is where the salt is actually dispensed onto the roadways. Another addition to our de-icing capabilities, if you can see right up here, this white tank is a 75-gallon plastic tank in which we will be filling with liquid calcium. Liquid calcium is a new de-icer that we're going to be using this year. Essentially, it's a chemical accelerator. It enhances the ability of salt. Normal rock salt is generally only good to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, at which point it becomes rather inactive. The liquid calcium will give us de-icing capabilities down to 0 to 5 degrees, and it will also create a situation where we can de-ice faster. This material is sprayed onto the salt as it's being dispensed. The operator can control that from inside the cab, can turn it on and shut it off when conditions warrant it. It's very important that we have these de-icing capabilities. When temperatures drop below 20 degrees, they're down around 0. The roads are slippery. typically the only approach was to spread sand. Sand is a good material to use on the roads if you're out in the country. If you come into the city of Burlington, where we have several combined sewers, the sand poses a big problem to us as far as getting into our sewers and into our treatment plants, and has a very abrasive effect on those things. And that's one reason why this liquid calcium should work so well for us, and it has the ability to de-ice down at low temperatures. We have 6 trucks with liquid calcium capability. What we're looking at here is a 4-wheel drive articulating front-end loader. We've recently purchased 2 of these. They come equipped with front plows as well as wings. They're an extremely effective plowing machine. They're very maneuverable, which is essential to have in the tight, narrow streets that are so typical to Burlington. We generally use these machines in areas such as the Old North End, or where there's an abundance of dead-end streets, cul-de-sacs, things of that nature, because they are an extremely maneuverable machine and they work very well. These machines will also take the standard front-end loader bucket, so that we can use this machine year-round, and when it's not plowing snow, it can be used for all of our construction projects, which we become involved in during the summer months.
Brian, is it fair to say now that our snow plow equipment situation is in pretty good shape in terms of the vehicles we state of the art?
Yeah, I think all the equipment we have is in very good condition. The maintenance division of Public Works is a fine group. They keep the equipment in tip-top condition. As far as state-of-the-art equipment, I think we probably have some of the most advanced equipment in the area, and we're certainly taking advantage of that opportunity and utilizing it to its fullest potential.
Okay, now I gather to run a piece of equipment like that, it takes a bit of training.
Yeah, there are some easy things to deal with on a machine like this, but again, there are some very difficult aspects as well. One of the nice things about running a front-end loader is the visibility is so much better. You can see that up in the cab area there's a number of windows, and it's very easy for the operator to see the whole picture. However, it is a heavy piece of equipment. It's not quite as simple to operate as a truck. It handles much differently on the roadway, and it takes a little more finesse and experience to operate a vehicle of this type. Okay, here we have our motor grader. This machine is run in the business district of Burlington in the downtown areas. The difference between a motor grader and a conventional plow is the motor grader has the ability to apply down pressure to the blade, and therefore we get a much better scraping effect. The rest of the plows on our equipment essentially float. The only down pressure is generated by the weight of the plow itself. So this machine is typically used for its scraping capabilities. It keeps the downtown streets very passable where the heavy traffic is, and we also like to use these when we have the opportunity on long main drags such as Main Street, Pearl Street, areas like that, where we can go through and keep those main arteries scraped right down as far as we can get them.
Brian, when snow comes, we get calls from parents who want to make sure that their sidewalks are clear to get the kids to school. We get calls from senior citizens around our senior citizen centers who want to make sure that the sidewalks are clear so they can go downtown. Do we have a certain priority routes that we concentrate on in terms of the sidewalks?
Yes, we plow all 180 miles of the sidewalks in Burlington every storm. And
by the way, let me interrupt you to ask you that. Is that unusual? Most communities, do they in fact plow sidewalks?
The sense I get is no. In the communities that I've spoken to, several of them do not plow their sidewalks. Many of them rely on citizens to remove the snow from their sidewalks. They rely on local ordinances to make sure that the citizens are actually removing the snow. But I think in the city of Burlington, we have large areas that consist mainly of elderly people, and it's just not realistic to think that something like that would work here. And therefore, we've accepted the responsibility of removing the snow from the 180 miles of sidewalks in Burlington. We do have specialized routes. We have elderly routes that are mapped out These routes we typically try to provide a higher level of service, particularly in post-storm maintenance. After the storm is over, we try to do more sanding, more scraping of these areas to make it a little easier for the elderly people in Burlington to get to the places that they need to go to on a day-to-day basis, the grocery stores and the doctor's offices and things like that.
Okay. The last piece of equipment that we're going to look at today is this infrared truck, which is, I think, perhaps the most sophisticated piece of equipment that the Public Works Department has. Brian, briefly, do you want to explain what this piece of equipment does?
Sure. This truck primarily does two functions. One capability, it has a hot box up front where we can actually recycle asphalt. Typically, asphalt plants close in the middle of the winter. We have the ability now to produce hot mix all year round, and we can deal with potholes in the winter and not deal with coal patch, which typically has a very short lifespan. Also, it has an infrareding capability. This mat is lowered to the pavement. It heats up the asphalt. You go in with a rake and you can reform the asphalt in any manner you want. We get a lot of use out of this in our snow program, in that there are a lot of manholes in Burlington that are above grade, and they pose a real hazard to our equipment as well as our operators. And we can use this infrared mat to go in and to alter the grade of the pavement around the manhole covers and to reduce some of that damage and injury to our people and equipment.
Okay, I think we're running out of time. I wanted to thank Brian Osborne very much for showing us around the garage here and explaining some of the equipment that we have and some of the processes that we go through. I personally am very proud of what the Public Works Department and Brian's crew have done in terms of snow plowing. I think we're making some real gains. I think the guys are motivated, the equipment is there, and we're prepared to deal with the problem. Brian, if in fact people have questions or concerns during the course of the year, they can call up the Public Works Department, right?
Certainly.
And you'll get the best answers that they can provide. Thank you very much.